The rain was falling so hard that it erased the world beyond the dim glow of the supermarket lights, turning the parking lot into a blurred painting of reflections and shadows. Inside, the air smelled of warm bread, cleaning chemicals, and exhaustion. She stood near the dairy fridge, shaking, her fingers red from the cold and from gripping the same empty wallet for what felt like hours. Her baby, wrapped tightly in a faded pink blanket, stirred against her chest, letting out a weak cry that sounded more like a question than a demand. Every step she had taken that night had felt heavier than the last, but walking into this store had felt like walking into judgment itself. She had counted her coins 12 times already. She already knew it was not enough. Still, she stood there, staring at the milk cartons like they were oxygen tanks in a world that had suddenly run out of air. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small human moments, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive and reaching people who need them most. Her name was Amina, and 3 months earlier, her life had not been easy, but it had at least been stable. Her husband had worked long shifts at a small factory outside the city, and she had stitched clothes at home for neighbors to earn a little extra money. They had lived in a single rented room with peeling paint and a leaking ceiling, but it had been theirs. Then the factory closed overnight. No warning. No final paycheck, no promise of reopening, just locked gates and security guards who refused to meet anyone's eyes. At first, they had told themselves it was temporary. Then they sold the television, then the small gas stove, then her wedding jewelry, one thin gold bracelet at a time. When the landlord knocked and spoke gently but firmly, they packed their lives into 2 suitcases and moved into his cousin's already crowded apartment. 2 weeks later, her husband left early in the morning to look for work in another city. He promised to call, he promised to send money, he promised to come back soon. The phone never rang again. Pregnancy had turned into childbirth, and childbirth had turned into survival. Amina learned quickly how invisible poverty could make you feel. People looked past her like she was part of the wall. Sometimes that invisibility felt like protection. Sometimes it felt like suffocation. She learned which bakeries threw away unsold bread at night. She learned which mosques offered free meals quietly, without asking questions. She learned how to rock her baby slowly enough to make hunger sleep longer. But milk was different. Milk could not be stretched. Milk could not be replaced by warm water and hope. That night, she had walked nearly 4 kilometers because someone had told her this store sometimes discounted near-expiry milk late at night. Her shoes had holes in the soles. The rain had soaked through her clothes within minutes. But she kept walking because when her baby cried, it felt like the world was accusing her of something she could never defend herself against. The milk carton she held now felt heavier than its weight. She turned it over, reading the price again even though numbers had not magically changed in the last 30 seconds. She walked to the checkout slowly, like a prisoner walking toward a verdict. The cashier was young, tired, and polite in the distant way people become when they deal with hundreds of strangers every day. Amina placed the milk on the counter and poured her coins out. The sound was louder than it should have been, too final, too honest. The cashier counted once, then again, then once more, slower this time. Amina could feel heat rising in her face, even though her clothes were still cold and wet. Her baby whimpered softly, sensing tension in a way only babies can. The cashier's eyes softened slightly, but rules were rules. Amina understood that. The world ran on rules, and she had been losing against them for months now. She whispered, almost to herself, that she just needed milk for her baby. The words felt small and fragile, like they might break if spoken too loudly. In that moment, she did not notice the man standing behind her in line. She did not notice the way he suddenly inhaled sharply, like someone who had just stepped into icy water. Amina had reached a point in life where hope was dangerous. Hope created expectations. Expectations created disappointment. So she had trained herself to live minute by minute. If she could get through this minute, she would worry about the next one later. Right now, she just needed to survive this checkout counter. She just needed to somehow turn coins into milk. She just needed the universe to look at her baby and decide to be merciful for once. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky like distant drums. Inside, time seemed to stretch into something slow and heavy. She stared at the counter, unable to meet the cashier's eyes, already preparing herself for the quiet humiliation of picking up her coins and walking out into the rain with empty hands and a crying child. Behind her, the stranger pressed his lips together, and his eyes filled with tears he did not understand yet. Something about the way she said those words had cracked open a door he had spent years trying to keep closed. Something about her exhaustion felt painfully familiar, and for the first time in a long time, he felt something stronger than routine, stronger than detachment, stronger than the protective numbness he had built around himself. He felt the overwhelming, unstoppable urge to step forward and change the ending of this moment. And he did.
The stranger's name was Fareed, and he had come to the store for something trivial, something forgettable, something that now felt almost shameful in comparison to the gravity of the moment unfolding in front of him. He had been planning to buy imported chocolate as a gift for a business partner. He had been annoyed about the rain ruining his evening. He had been thinking about emails, deadlines, and small inconveniences that suddenly felt embarrassingly meaningless. When Amina's quiet words reached him, they collided with memories he had spent years burying under success, routine, and carefully constructed emotional distance. Fareed had not always been comfortable. 15 years earlier, he had been a child sitting beside his own mother in a government hospital waiting room, watching her count coins to buy medicine for his younger sister. He remembered the way his mother's hands had trembled. He remembered pretending not to notice. He remembered promising himself that one day he would earn enough money that no one in his family would ever have to count coins in public again. Life had changed. He had studied relentlessly. He had worked 2 jobs during university. He had built a small logistics company from a borrowed laptop and sleepless nights. Now he owned a car, wore expensive watches, and argued about investment opportunities over coffee in air-conditioned offices. But trauma has a strange memory. It does not fade. It waits. It sleeps. And then it wakes up when it hears a sentence like, "I just need milk for my baby." Fareed stepped forward slowly, as if approaching a wild animal he did not want to scare away. He placed his card on the counter next to the coins. The cashier looked at him, confused. Fareed simply nodded once. No performance, no speech, no hero moment. Just quiet action. The cashier scanned the milk again and completed the payment. Amina froze. She did not turn immediately. Sometimes kindness can be more shocking than cruelty. She slowly turned her head, eyes wide, confused, almost afraid. Fareed did not smile in a dramatic way. He simply gave a small nod that communicated something deeper than words. You are not alone in this exact second. But something unexpected happened next. Fareed did not walk away. Instead, he asked the cashier to add diapers, then formula, then a small pack of baby wipes, then bread, then eggs, then rice. Each beep of the scanner sounded like a heartbeat. Amina's eyes filled with tears she had promised herself she would not waste anymore. She kept shaking her head, whispering that it was too much, that she could not accept it. Fareed spoke softly, telling her that years ago someone had helped his mother in a moment just like this, and he had spent his whole life waiting for a chance to return that kindness to the world. They walked out of the store together, not as friends, not as strangers, but as 2 people temporarily connected by a moment of shared humanity. The rain had slowed to a light drizzle. The parking lot lights reflected softly off the wet ground. Amina kept apologizing. Fareed kept telling her she did not owe him anything. He asked where she lived. She hesitated, pride and survival fighting inside her chest. Finally, survival won. She told him. Over the next week, Fareed found himself thinking about Amina and her baby constantly, not in a savior way, not in a heroic fantasy, but in a deeply human, deeply uncomfortable awareness of how fragile stability really is. He arranged through a local community center to make sure she received baby supplies anonymously. He helped connect her with a women's sewing cooperative that paid fairly and consistently. He never told her he was behind it. He did not want gratitude. He wanted balance. He wanted to believe that life sometimes corrects itself through people. Amina slowly began rebuilding pieces of her life. She started sewing again. She started sleeping slightly longer. Her baby started gaining healthy weight. She started laughing occasionally, though it always surprised her when it happened. The world was still hard, bills still existed, uncertainty still hovered, but something fundamental had changed. She no longer felt completely invisible. Months passed. One afternoon, while delivering documents to the community center, Fareed saw Amina sitting outside, feeding her baby under the shade of a tree. She looked healthier, stronger. She saw him and immediately stood up, tears forming again, but these tears were different. These were gratitude mixed with dignity, mixed with survival, mixed with something like quiet victory. Neither of them knew that their lives were about to intersect in a way neither could have predicted. A year later, the rain returned on a night that felt strangely familiar. But this time, Amina was inside the supermarket, wearing clean clothes she had bought with her own earnings. Her baby, now walking unsteadily and laughing loudly, sat in the shopping cart seat, chewing on a plastic toy. Amina moved through the aisles with calm confidence, comparing prices, planning meals, thinking about next month's sewing orders. Life was still modest, still careful, still balanced on discipline and long hours, but it was hers again. She had built it back piece by fragile piece. At the checkout counter, she noticed a teenage boy arguing quietly with the cashier. His mother stood beside him, pale and embarrassed, holding a prescription medicine box. Amina watched the same scene unfold that had once defined her own life. Coins, not enough. Quiet apology, quiet shame. For a moment, fear whispered inside her. What if she needed that money later? What if something went wrong next month? What if she fell back into that darkness? Then she remembered the rain, the milk, the stranger who cried. She stepped forward and placed her card on the counter. The boy's mother tried to refuse. Amina smiled gently and told her that sometimes the world only works if people hold each other up for a few minutes at a time. She paid. She picked up her groceries. She kissed her baby's forehead. And as she walked out into the night air, she felt something she had not felt in years. Power. Not the loud kind, not the rich kind, the quiet power of knowing she had turned survival into compassion. Across the street, Fareed sat in his car, having just finished a late meeting nearby. He happened to glance toward the store entrance. He saw Amina help the other woman. He saw the way she held herself. He saw the chain reaction of kindness continue forward into the world. And he cried again. But this time, it was not from pain. It was from relief, from proof that small moments matter more than grand gestures, from proof that humanity is not something you announce. It is something you do, quietly, repeatedly, imperfectly, but sincerely. If this story touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and engage with this video so more people can feel this message. And before this story ends, please comment one word, kindness, if you believe small acts can change entire lives. That night, the rain stopped completely. The city lights reflected on streets that no longer felt quite as cold. Somewhere, a baby slept with a full stomach. Somewhere, a mother slept without fear for the first time in weeks. Somewhere, a stranger sat in a car, realizing that success is not measured in money, but in moments where you change someone's ending.
and somewhere deep inside the quiet machinery of the world, something shifted slightly toward hope.